Okay.
This is when I go back to my inspiration, Coach Lawhorn. He says, "Don't volunteer for anything."
Okay. Yeah. And you know what also helps is like if you're competent, you're like a competent person, they ask you to do things. So be incompetent. Because the more competent you are, the more they ask you to do.
Why should you have to pick up everyone else's slack?
Well, that happens when you're competent. Okay. Last thing we talked about the other day was we're talking about powers of Congress. Okay. So will you help me write a learning intent. Thank you. Intention. I need to write a learning intention for this. We're talking about the powers of Congress. So you see this one here? What I did earlier today. So learning intention would be
what the power of Congress is. Period. Why not?
what powers
Each branch.
does Congress have? Can you differentiate
D-I-A-T.
between the two houses? How's that? That's what we're going to learn today. Okay? Good? All right. So, express powers of Congress can be found where? Article 1. Okay? Now, what we have to learn to do, guys, is differentiate between powers of the House and powers of the Senate. Okay? So, there's going to be a matching section on the test. Okay? And option A will be House, option B will be Senate, and that'll have some other terms. But you're going to have to tell me which house has the power that's listed in the matching. You have to put A or B, okay, on several of these. So, anytime Congress is going to spend your money or tax you, it must start in the House. Okay? Tax and spend. Bills have to originate in the House. Okay? Which body gets to approve treaties?
Senate.
Okay. Now, on this, what kind of majority do you need for a treaty? 2/3. 2/3. Which body gets to approve presidential appointments? So when the president appoints federal judges, Supreme Court justices, cabinet members, ambassadors, consuls, these sorts of positions, the head of the FBI, the head of the EPA, and so forth, it is the Senate that has to approve them. Which body is in charge of impeaching the president? Which body holds the impeachment trial? And what percent do you need to convict? Sir, you only need a majority impeach. Oh, here's another. Which body chooses president if no candidate gets a majority of the electoral college votes? John Quincy Adams, Thomas Jefferson.
What a guy.
Now,
He was,
That's president.
what a guy.
What a guy.
Not a good guy, not a good guy. But
Hey,
like, what a
you
guy.
remember his name, don't you? I'm just saying, you must have done something right.
Every time I spend 20,
he's still on the 20
For now.
for now.
I think he's gonna stay.
They're saying he's racist
He-
somehow. I
he
don't
will
think he
be
did anything wrong.
He's going to be canceled.
He had some history with him like 4 years ago.
I mean, I don't know if he did.
Bro, why are you saying?
Aren't there new ones that would never come on the holiday?
Yeah. I think they were talking about maybe the Harriet Tubman. Yeah,
I guess we have Ben Frank.
I think that's going to be the 20.
We need two Ben Franks.
What?
Ben Frank on
Donald Trump.
He's already been
I actually
convicted.
don't know.
He's a fascist. We can't have fascists.
Antifa, Don.
Oh, yep, I got you. I'll step in.
Yeah.
Put me on the 20.
Okay, hey, while we're on this thing here, okay, guys, before the 12th Amendment, remember the 12th Amendment?
Yes. Well, that's vice president and president together.
Together, right? Yeah, so, remember this? So you elect president, vice president on the same ticket. Prior to that, remember, the person that finished second was vice president. Well, what if there was a tie for vice president, or nobody got a majority, for vice president? The Senate would choose the vice president. That's in the Constitution, but it's no longer relevant in the Constitution because of the 12th Amendment. What's that? No. But it's an interesting quirk, guys.
Trump and Biden going.
Due to that, honestly, I might just be my stories in the book.
Okay.
They might just.
So you guys got that? You got that on the test right there, yeah? You can do that, okay? And some of you will miss those.
Thanks.
His name is Evan McMillan.
Okay, next thing. Okay, non-legislative power.
Every day. I could have watched it the whole time as I went up there. Fantastic.
You could have seen John. He was.
Trying to ignore the back talk over there, okay? Jeez,
Hey,
John's got
Oh,
the
bro.
runs of the mouth.
It's
this morning,
Thanksgiving break.
this afternoon.
I'm ready.
Okay.
They're gonna hear that.
Okay, so Congress's main job is to pass laws, right? That is legislation. Okay, but it has some other important roles, some of which you already know about. So let's say we want to change the Constitution and propose a what? An amendment. Is that legislation? No, it's a change to the Constitution. Okay, so proposing amendments. Do I need anything? Proposing,
No, you don't need it.
proposing amendments. Okay. And by the way, all 27 amendments have been proposed by Congress, yes? Yeah, okay. Other non-legislative powers. I just mentioned one. Impeachment. Now, who can Congress impeach? President, Vice President, federal judges, which includes Supreme Court justice. Okay, 4, what? What can they impeach them? On what reason? What ground? High crimes and misdemeanors.
Yeah, you trying to misdemeanor?
Right. So what the heck does that mean? Jaywalking or speeding ticket is a misdemeanor.
I don't impeachments and voting.
I haven't got a speeding ticket.
I've seen you jaywalk.
He's
That's
not
not
elected.
That's hearsay. Prove it.
Shh. Now, if it's not clear what they mean by high crimes and misdemeanors in the Constitution, what document could we turn to find out what is meant by high crimes and misdemeanors? Testing you, my honors government class. If it's not clear in the Constitution what is meant by high crimes and misdemeanors, what documents could we look at?
It was the guy,
Is it Magna Carta?
careful notes,
Oh.
Madison's journal entries, or whatever.
Thank you.
Federalist?
The Federalist Papers, where they write about this on multiple occasions in the 85 essays. Okay? So, if you're a member of Congress or a constitutional lawyer, should you be familiar with the Federalist Papers? Yes. Okay? As I said at the time, probably the 3rd most important documents ever published for our government, behind the Constitution and Declaration. Okay? The Federalist Papers. They explain the Constitution. Okay? Last but not least of the non-legislative powers. And boy, oh boy, are we about to see this in action. It's called congressional oversight. As I like to say, guys, the NSA is watching us. Who's watching the NSA? Answer the question. Congress. Okay? They have oversight. Remember all those committees we talked about, the standing committees? Each one of those committees has different oversight roles of different parts of the government, of the executive branch. You follow me? Now, Joe Biden, for the last 2 years, has escaped any kind of investigation into his administration. Now that the Republicans control the House, a can of worms has just been opened. You guys remember the Trump years at all? Not 1, but 2 impeachments. You follow me? How many investigations into Trump were there in his 4 years? It even started before he took office. You understand? The FBI was spying on the Trump campaign. They had gotten warrants through the FISA courts to investigate the campaign. Yes.
How's that different than
How's that different than what?
Watergate?
How is what different?
Spying on your opponents.
Oh. It's not really that different, except it was done through the law, through the Department of Justice, which many people feel is biased right now at the leadership, at the FBI, which, guess what's going to happen? Let me show you. Just took me like 30 seconds to pull up 2 articles. You guys remember the pandemic?
No, they need Gordon Reeves to be the one to say it.
And who was the guy that was giving directives to President Trump and then President Biden about how we should respond to the pandemic? Dr. Fauci.
What a guy. I don't know, some of the old guy, everybody listen to.
Now, Waters is a Fox News host. He says, first thing I want to see is Fauci squirm. Okay, listen. Fauci is the longest, like, highest paid employee of the federal government. Okay? He has been in his position with the National Institutes of Health for decades, going back to the 80s when the AIDS epidemic hit. Okay? Now, I remember that. Like, that was scary. AIDS was scary. Okay? Now, today, you guys don't really hear about it that much, do you? Okay? But it was scary. Like, because, look, if you had sex with somebody, you know, there's a chance you're going to get AIDS and you were going to shrivel up and die. Huh? Yeah, like, yeah, like Freddie Mercury. Yeah. Now, then you had, you guys know who Magic Johnson is?
Yeah.
Magic Johnson, he was a basketball player. And one of the best ever. Okay, and then he got AIDS. Okay, but Magic Johnson's still alive. So there's HIV. You with me? And then there's full-blown AIDS. So, like, I asked somebody, I asked somebody recently that got married. I said, did you have to get an AIDS test? Because when my wife and I got married in 97 in Louisiana, in order for us to get a marriage license, we both had to get AIDS tests so that we knew we were not, like, spreading it. Okay? Weird. Like, you know, and they said, what? You know, this was somebody, like, recently, you know, they got married and they're like, what? AIDS test? We didn't have an AIDS test. Okay? Listen, Fauci and the National Institutes of Health funded gain of function research at the Wuhan laboratory. Okay? The laboratory, virology, right? That's the word, right? He funded that with our taxpayer money. Should he have to answer questions about that? Is there a legitimate chance that this virus escaped from that lab in Wuhan, China? Yeah. Or it came from the natural environment from bats. Okay? And was spread at a wet market in China, in Wuhan. A wet market being where they serve, you know, like fish and bats. Unsanitary. Okay? Now, listen. When people started saying this may have leaked from a lab, listen to me. When people started saying that, it was quickly dismissed and shut down. Okay? President Biden met with President Xi last week. I don't know if you guys knew that. President of China. Okay? And a lot of people said he needs to press President Xi on the origins of COVID. Did Biden bring it up? No. Okay. The House of Representatives will bring it up. Okay. And one of the strongest guys on this is a doctor. Now, he's not a virologist, but he's a doctor. Is Dr. Rand Paul, senator from Kentucky. Okay. Now, he's in the Senate, so the Senate, Republicans don't have control. So all of these investigations will be taking place in the House. The committee chairs will all be Republicans. Okay, this is one. I'll give you some more.
So the House of Reps investigates the impeachment.
This is their job, to oversee the executive branch. Okay. House Judiciary Republicans this summer, Alexander Mayorkas, who is the head of Homeland Security. He's the Secretary of Homeland Security, about the border. Okay. Mayorkas said the border is secure. He said that on numerous occasions. He said that this week. Okay. These are the people that they have told will be called as witnesses to testify in front of this committee. Okay. Including the head of this. You got heads of ICE, which is Immigration, Customs, and Enforcement. And then these other offices. Okay. All these people are going to be asked to come in and testify. Okay. Under oath. Okay? And then, guys, that's not the big one. The big one is House Republicans looking into Joe Biden and his family and their businesses. Between Joe Biden and his brother and Joe Biden and his son. What did Joe Biden know? When did he know it? Did he benefit from it? Did he use American influence to help his family with businesses in China, in Ukraine, in Romania, in Kazakhstan? Okay? Was he using the office of the vice president to enrich his family? Well, we know the answer to that. You just got to prove it. Okay? And guys, the Democrats didn't look into any of this stuff. Here's the other thing. The FBI. The FBI, when the Hunter Biden laptop story broke, the FBI shut that story down. They told Facebook, they told YouTube, they told Twitter, they told all these companies, shut it down. We're too close to an election, and this is Russian disinformation. And 51 former and current intelligence officers of this country signed a letter saying this was Russian disinformation. Okay, where's the evidence that this is Russian disinformation? That is a lie. The Hunter laptop is real. And there's a lot of incriminating evidence on it. Emails, photographs, videos of crimes committed by the son, and the son is not Joe Biden. The son is not elected to office. Okay? But things that the son did, business-wise, in China and Ukraine especially, was that at the behest of the father. Okay? I mean, guys, when Hunter Biden went to China, he went on Air Force Two with his dad. And Joe Biden said, I've never had any conversations with my son about his business dealings. Now, if you believe that, now, do House Republicans want to impeach Trump or Biden? No, they don't. Some of them do. But most of them don't. Now, this is what Republicans risk here. The country has issues. Like this winter, we're going to have issues with gas prices, diesel fuel shortages, rationing possibly of natural gas in New England. If the Russians or somebody else decides to hack our pipelines again like they did last year, and we have a really cold winter, we could have some serious problems. Republican Party's risk here looking like all they want to do is investigate rather than legislate and solve some of the problems that we're having in this country. Okay? Now, you know which side the media is going to be on. Okay? So they're going to try and paint the Republicans as that's what all they're doing. And they need to be careful about that. Okay? But guys, these investigations are coming in January. Okay? And there's going to be a lot of them. Okay? I'm most interested in the FBI story. Okay? We cannot have justice in this system if the leaders of the FBI are political. They can't take sides.
They've had to vote them.
Of course. They're allowed to give money campaign contributions. Okay? But they can't use their offices to affect the outcome of elections by silencing critics of one of the two parties. You just can't. You can't have that. That's Watergate. You know what I mean? You're using the government to look into political opponents and silence them. Which is for sure impeachment. Okay? Heads should roll. Now, some of these people that work at the FBI have left. And it's not the rank and file FBI people. It's not your agents on the ground. It's the Washington, D.C. field office. And the director, Ray, who's allowing this to happen. Okay? And so there have been about somewhere around 20 FBI agents that have come forward to members of Congress as whistleblowers, saying that the FBI has become very politicized. Okay? The Democratic Party guys used to hate the FBI because the FBI was always looking into their people. Like Martin Luther King Jr., right? Dude, they had a file on the FBI, a file on Martin Luther King Jr., this big. You know what I mean? Like, what can the government do with information it has about you? Well, they can blackmail you. Like, we have this information about you. You need to shut up, or we're going to release this information. Okay? They can make your life hell. 91 days out of an election, midterm election, the FBI raided a former president's home. That's never been done before. Okay? Could they have not gone? I mean, like, they raided it. Like, with armed agents. Okay? Showed up without warning. They not have handled that differently? You guys see where I'm coming from here? So that's what we're going to see, guys, a ton of this. Now, oftentimes this is referred to as the neglected function of Congress. But after Watergate, like, members of Congress can become famous by holding these hearings, by calling this guy to the carpet, okay, and making him look incompetent, which he may be. Okay. What's going on at the border right now? Is it on purpose? Are they letting it happen? Do you guys know how many people have come across the border since Joe Biden was elected president? We know how many have gone and, right, met with, claimed, amnesty, yeah, and then the ones that got away. Okay, we don't know how many. We can estimate how many got away. So it's interesting. So we'll see how these investigations play out. We'll be in history class next semester when this starts up. But, now it'll also be interesting to see how the media covers it, Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is all the notes I have, except what we have starting on page 75. Okay. On page 75, I list some powers of Congress, express powers, and then how a bill becomes a law. Okay. So I put this in your book. Okay. So when we return, I will take 2 days to go over this with you. Okay. And then at the end of going over it, I'm going to take you through, I think I told you this, how a bill becomes law, how Obamacare became a law. Okay. Which is really interesting. And then I'll check, in the middle of that, I can check like how much you were paying attention as we've gone through this. Okay. So that'll be good. That'll be good. And so probably looking at a test like Thursday when we get back. Any questions over book reviews? I will open up an assignment on Turnitin. You'll be able to turn it in on Canvas. You won't have to go into turnitin.com. Okay. And do me a favor. When you turn it in, check your plagiarism numbers. If they're high, fix it. Okay. Best thing you can do is just write it yourself and not use anybody else. Now, if you quote something from the book, put the page number. Yeah.
It's like a minimum order page.
3 to 5 pages. Okay. Which is going to be, you're going to be right, you want to be at least at like 1,000 words. Okay. I see 1,000 words, I'm like, that's good. Okay. Can you manipulate the margins and the spacing,
All that jazz.
all that jazz, to get to 3 pages and at 913 words? Probably. Just throw in a couple of quotes, boom, doom, you're there. Okay? Good? All right, hey, I'm done. Happy Thanksgiving. Anybody traveling?
Tractor Barrel.
You're